Om Aganatamurandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshmulatam Hina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapatam Yena Bhutale Swayam Upakadamayam Dhiranti Sambadantikam Pandeham Shri Guru Shri Atapatakam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Shrivam Sadvaitam Sadhutam Purijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Balam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishavitam Cha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopikanta Radha Kanta Namostade Tapta Kansha Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhana Suradevi Pranamani Hari Priya Vanchakapatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. So we'll just read a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 16, text 20. Through 16, 26. So we just did a grain ceremony, and you saw that. So in the Vedic culture, there are various ceremonies that we should observe. So what actually we're introducing is Varnashrama-dharma. When people say, what is your philosophy? Is it Hinduism? So you could say that we're like Orthodox Hindus, but really we're presenting Varnashrama-dharma. So Varnashrama-dharma, Varna ashram, 4 Varnas, 4 ashrams. So the 4 Varnas are the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Sudras. So these 4 classes. And wherever you look, you'll find these classes. The communists tried to teach a classless society. This was their communism. Classless. But still you had these 4 Varnas. They're still there. So the first one is the Brahmins. So that's lady or men, and that means people who are interested in Brahminical activities. And Brahminical activities, it means a human being who is more truthful and more in the mode of goodness, more peaceful and religious, interested in spiritual life, God, where I came from, the purpose in life. This is the Brahminical qualities. So the Vaishnav, that's all of you, you're all Vaishnavas, automatically you are Brahmins, automatically. But a Brahmin is not automatically a Vaishnav. Because sometimes the Brahmins, especially in India, they teach and involve themselves in demigod worship. And they may not be so conversant with Vaishnava philosophy. So they may stress demigod worship. Not all Brahmins are Vaishnavas. But if you're a Vaishnav practicing, then automatically you have the Brahminical qualities. So that's the Brahmin. I was reading just the other day, actually yesterday night, 6th canto. That's right, the 6th canto. And Narada Muni, he's one of our gurus, Narada Muni. And he was preaching to the sons of Daksha. And Daksha had many children. And he wanted them to all get married and create progeny. But Narada Muni interfered. And he said, no, you give up this Grihastha life, go to the forest, become self-realized. So they did this, thousands of children. So then it happened again. Daksha was able to reproduce. We're not talking about 2 or 3 children, we're talking about 10,000. But it's in a different era, and they're also from the higher planets. So they can do these things. So again, Narada Muni preached to the sons, and they all listened to him, and they all gave up creating progeny, and they went to the forests, and they became self-realized. So then Daksha, he became angry. And then Daksha confronted Narada Muni, and he said, you look like a sadhu, but you're disturbing people, and I'm going to curse you. And he cursed him. This is Daksha, Prajapati Daksha. He cursed Narada Muni, who's one of our gurus in our sampradaya, that you cannot stay in any one place for any length of time. I think something like the time it takes to milk a cow, like this. You can't stay anywhere. You always have to be on the move. So Narada Muni took that as a blessing. He took that as a blessing because Narada Muni's mood was to preach. And one has to be constantly traveling. So Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that just as Narada Muni was cursed to always be on the move, we have also been cursed because we are representing Narada Muni. And then Prabhupada said, although there are many temples in ISKCON where I could stay, and nice rooms and nice facility, but I can't stay more than 1 week at any one place. And Prabhupada said, so I was thinking also when Prabhupada came to South Africa, he just spent in Durban 8 or 9 days, Johannesburg 8 or 9 days, Mauritius, couple days, and then off he went. He had to travel. So Prajapati Daksha, he cursed Narada Muni, and he was very angry. His lips were trembling. So that means that's Phoenix. Now I know I'm in Phoenix, because that would have been a 1989 Taz with stickers all over it. The stickers are holding it together. You know? So that's confirmation that I am now actually in Phoenix. So, this is interesting because Daksha cursed Narada Muni and he was very angry. But Narada Muni, although he was being cursed, he didn't leave. He didn't go. And Prabhupada writes, what's in the translation, that Narada Muni thought, let Daksha become angry and let him get rid of his anger by cursing me, and then I'll be able to preach to him. Now this is highly advanced, because obviously if you were cursed, you would become disturbed, you'd leave. And I have my own personal experience. A couple of years ago, I was at Radhakund, and someone came out and they almost cursed me. And I was thinking, how is this? You know, I'm at Radhakund, the most sacred place in the universe. And this man, actually it was believe it or not, a god brother, was actually like cursing me. So, of course, I left immediately when I heard him speak like that. But Narada Muni didn't. He stayed. And he thought, let Daksha get this out of him. You know, like sometimes when you're angry, you speak and then you feel pacified because it's like a pressure valve and the pressure's gone off. So Narada Muni actually remained there thinking, now let me preach to Prajapati Daksha. So these are very advanced. You can see how advanced. So Prabhupada says, yes, we've also been cursed. And then he said, by two sets of people. I've been cursed by the smarta Brahmins in India. You know, the smarta Brahmins, they're born into the Brahmin family, and their whole idea is they do religious ceremonies and they worship the deity, and they're interested in paisa pek, money. So this person, Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, he's now initiating white people or colored people or black-bodied people. And he's making them Brahmins. He's giving them the Brahmin thread. But this is our birthright. This is our birthright, the Brahmins. Someone told me they went to Jagannath Puri, and somehow or other they went into the Jagannath temple, and there was the Brahmin, and he wants dakshin, he wants money. And this particular person didn't want to give any money. Then this Brahmin immediately cursed him. Your legs will break. Your family will die. I mean, everything that you don't want to hear. Just because he didn't give some donation. Even sometimes in India, you're traveling in the car and then you stop in the taxi, and you stop at the red light, and then these people come and they beg with a begging bowl. And then if you don't give, they make these funny cursing signs, like they go, and they throw like so-called curses at you because you didn't give them 2 rupees or 1 rupee at the traffic light. So, of course, they're not Brahmins, but this smarter Brahmins, Prabhupada said they curse me, and they're not happy, and they criticize me. They criticize me. And then he said, in the West, the parents of my disciples, they curse me in the West, because these young boys and girls left material enjoyment or university or whatever it was and joined the Hare Krishna movement. So double curse, double, toil and trouble, cauldron burning, fire bubble. Double, toil and trouble, fire burning, cauldron bubble. That's my Shakespeare quote for tonight. I always have to slip in a Shakespeare quote, Double, toil and trouble, fire burning, cauldron bubble. It's the 3 witches who haunted Macbeth. So material nature will also haunt us. And we have to take shelter of the holy name to defend ourselves. And just as Srila Prabhupada was cursed, so also we'll have many obstacles and we will have many difficulties. Obstacles in spiritual life will come in abundance. And we just have to look at the example of Prahlad Maharaj. His very father tried to kill him. We have to look at Draupadi, who was disrobed, or they tried to disrobe her. Now for a Satrani, that's a Kshatriya woman, that's worse than suicide. That's worse than throwing oneself into the fire to be disrobed or left naked, as it were, in front of men, other than the husband, the bona fide husband. So for a Kshatriya lady, you can't go higher than that. That's the worst. And we look at Gajendra, the elephant. He was attacked by the crocodile. So, again, problem. The Pandavas were put in so much difficulties. The Battle of Kurukshetra, it went on for 18 days, but on numerous days, they lost. Ultimately, they won because Krishna was on their side. But it's not like every day they won, as it were. And even the son of, who was it, Arjuna, who got killed? Abhimanyu, yes, he was killed. Abhimanyu, yes. So they had their ups and downs. They had their ups and downs. So we also, living here in Durban, or South Africa, we'll have our ups and downs. We'll have our good days and our bad days. But we have to continue chanting Krishna's holy name and taking prasad and reading Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, even though we may have our bad days. It's like the South African weather. You can't actually predict. They try to predict, but you can't. So we must just continue much chita sava durgani. Durgani means impediments. But if you think of Krishna, you'll pass over all these impediments. In the Bhagavad Gita, Machchitasava Duragani, text, chapter 18, text 58. If you think of me, if you become conscious of me, you'll pass over all the obstacles. And the obstacles are called Durgani, or impediments. And we know the demigoddess, Durga, impediments. So if you think of me, you'll pass over all the obstacles of conditional life by my grace, by my mercy. So it's only by mercy that we can make advancement. In that connection with Maharaj Daksha, in the 6th canto, in the purport, Prabhupada writes, these young boys and girls are joining, and they're giving up the enjoying spirit, the enjoying mood. That means flesh, intoxication, illicit sex, gambling. They're giving up these things. And then Prabhupada said, it is not by practice that they're giving these things up. It is by mercy. And this mercy is coming from Lord Chaitanya and his representatives. So this word mercy is kripa. So there's a kripa avatar. That's Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. So Lord Chaitanya is the Yuga avatar. So it is by his mercy that one can control the senses and go forward in devotional service. But still, we have to try. That means we have to rise early, we have to chant, we fast on Ekadashi, and the holy days like Janmashtami, shortly coming, Krishnastami. So we have to try. And that's called sadhana bhakti. Sadhana bhakti. We have to engage the senses in the service of the Lord. Bowing down, chanting, using our intelligence to try to understand Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. Using the tongue to take prasad. That's not really so difficult because the prasad is so nice, isn't it? Cooked with ghee, and even you're allowed a beans curry. It's not against the law. Beans curry, aloo, sabji, and puri pata. And if you like your porridge, you can take it. If you like your rotis, you can take it. But just make sure you offer it to Krishna first. So to control the tongue, but it also means the tongue, it's got no backbone. Am I correct? So it wiggles. And what does it wiggle about? Hey, did you hear this about so-and-so? Did you hear that about her? Oh, look at her sari. Oh, it's very cheap. Ah, look at her shoes. Oh, look at her wife. Look at the husband. The tongue waggles. It just waggles. Because it's got no backbone. So, controlling the tongue means taking prasadam, but also controlling what you say. We're all inclined to respond quite quickly when we get offended or insulted or humiliated. The tongue. So engage the senses, the legs, in walking to the temple, or nowadays driving to the temple. You still have to use the legs, isn't it? The accelerator, the brake. Even if you have an automatic. I come to Phoenix and I see the cars and I see that quite a few of them are manual because they're old. They're old cars. So use your legs to come to the temple. Use your hands to offer incense, ring the bell. Use your eyes to see the deity. In the Bhagavatam, it says those eyes that don't look at the form of the Lord, they're like the eyes on the peacock feather. So you've seen this, the peacock, and then it looks like an eye is looking at you. So we use our eyes to try to look at the form of the Lord, our ears, hearing the sound of God, the holy name. So, sadhana bhakti, we engage the senses in the service of the Lord. So I was mentioning about ceremonies, yes. So Varnashrama-dharma, Brahmins, then the Kshatriyas, they're like the administrators. And you always have these administrators. You could, I guess, say they're politicians. Politicians. And they're always arguing. Am I correct? And there's going to be a big Jagannath, Subhadra. Yes, there's going to be a big argument tomorrow on CNN. You're going to have Mr. Trump arguing with his arch enemy, big time. And the one is 78 and the other is 81. Now really, honestly, isn't that time to engage in spiritual life? You just have a few years left. Shouldn't you be reading the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam and going into spiritual mode? But they want to control America. It's the Kali Yuga. So politicians are there also, and then Vaishya merchants, and then Sudras. So in the Kali Yuga, there's abundance of Sudras, abundance. Very few people will really be Brahminical, very few. And of those Brahminical people, ladies and men, very few will actually be Vaishnavas. Vaishnavas are very rare, very rare. So that's all of you. You're Vaishnavas. You've accepted Krishna as the goal of life. And you're trying to make spiritual advancement. So this is very wonderful. And Krishna will reciprocate with all of you. There's no question about this. So, Varnashrama-dharma, the 4 Varnas, the 4 ashrams. Brahmachari, Grihastha, married, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. And then within the Varnashrama-dharma, there are these ceremonies. So, one ceremony is before the husband and wife have union. Then there's another ceremony when the wife is so many months pregnant. Then there's another ceremony when the child is born. And then name giving, and then hair cutting. And then the one that we quite often practice is after 6 months, more or less, we give them a grain. So that baby was taking and smiling also. Smiling. And I was also smiling because I don't take sweet rice. I'm a vegan because of all the stomach problems. So I was smiling as much as baby was smiling. So there's that ceremony. And then when the boy, usually it's the boy, they get the family guru gives them some type of initiation, But that's another ceremony, initiation. And then, what else? Middle age ceremony, retirement ceremony, you retire. And then you pass away. So there's again another, the Vaishnavas come, the body is burnt. And then even after you've gone, even after your body has been burnt, the ceremony, 3-day ceremony, 1 year after, so many ceremonies. So the essence of all these ceremonies is much chitta, to think of Krishna. So if you're chanting Hare Krishna and you're a devotee, automatically you're fulfilling all these ceremonies. But also if you're inclined, some people are inclined to these various ceremonies, there's no real harm, but you have to understand that the holy name, chanting the holy name is the main yajna, not fire yajnas or this yajna or that yajna. It's just Harinam yajna, chanting the holy name. That's the main sacrifice. Also, when a person is born, they have debts. So I was reading, yes, Prajapati Daksha was saying, my sons have debts. So you have a debt to the great sages, you have a debt to the demigods, and you have a debt to the father and the previous family members, grandfather, grandmother, you have a debt. So you pay the debt to the great sages by being celibate. And then you pay your debt to the demigods by oblations, yajnas, and then you pay your debt to your parents by producing children. So you might think, well, celibate, but producing children, but in Grihastha ashram, it is completely authorized to have children, and it's a religious act. But you're still regarded as celibate, as long as you follow the strict religious principles. So those are 3 types of debts. There's another debt also to other living beings, like cows. We take their milk. So there's a certain debt to them also. So if you become the devotee of Krishna, then automatically all these debts are paid. Automatically. So we don't have to bother ourselves. For example, Lord Nrsimhadev asked Prahlad, is there anything you want? And Prahlad said, I would like my father to attain salvation or be liberated. Although he tried to kill me, Hiranyakashipu. And then Lord Nrsimhadev said, Tri Sapta, Tri 3, Sapta 7. 3 sevens are 21. 21 generations of forefathers will be purified or liberated. And in a commentary, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and Chaitanya Bhagavad has said, you become the Kanishta Bhakta, 3 generations. Become the Madhyam, I forget, and you become the Uttama Bhagavat, thousands and thousands of generations. And then in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's mentioned that you become the devotee of the Lord. Krishna will automatically look after your family members, even though they're not devotees. So the devotee doesn't have to worry about them. Because obviously, we have some attachment to our parents, but they may be non-devotees. But you can't, like Prahlad, still, that's the father, biological mother. So there is some attachment. So Prabhupada writes in the first canto, chapter 19, that Krishna will look after all the family members. That's immediate family members. And then, of course, deceased also get purified in blessings. To become the devotee of Krishna is very auspicious. And also, as I said, sudalabha, also very rare. So please continue, all of you, in your chanting Krishna's holy name, coming to the temple, try to do service. Food for life is very important, because even you give out the book, the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam, we're encouraged, give out these books. How many people actually read them? And how many people just put them on a, I don't know, library stand here and there? So there was one story, this air hostess, she became a devotee of Krishna, and very serious. So they asked the air hostess, how did you become Krishna conscious? So the devotees would go to the airports and distribute books. And this is one of their favorite places to distribute books. Because number one, you're on the aircraft or you're flying, that means you have to be of a certain class. That usually means you've got a little bit of money, as against going on a taxi or something like that. So they would dress in Western clothes. 1973, actually it really peaked in 1974, 1975, 1976. They'd go to the airport and distribute books. So the passenger, he's walking in the transit and someone presents a book to him or a magazine. He takes it. So then he's sitting on the aircraft and he's not particularly interested in the book, but he looks through it, but he leaves it on the seat. Then the air hostess comes and cleans the seats or sees the book. So she saw the book, so many magazines, and started reading them, became a devotee. So, food for life is so important because many of these conditioned souls, they're just too passionate to sit down and read. But still, we have to give the books because someone, someday, will read it. These books have been compared to a time bomb. So someone will read. Food for life, yes, and chanting the holy name of the Lord. They just hear that sound, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. They just hear that sound, and immediately they become purified. So Hare Nam. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita it is recorded, even dogs, even a dog, just hears the chanting, takes prasad. Even a dog can go back to Godhead. So please continue and try to help preach and give your support to Prabhupada's mission. And in that way you will go back to Godhead, and also family members around you also. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Parampara ki jai, Gau Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Would you like to ask or say anything? Any question?
Thank you for allowing this opportunity to ask a question. I'm wondering if you could please help me with understanding how did we as souls fall down from the spiritual world? Because if we were experiencing such transcendental bliss being with Lord Krishna,
I think that's probably the most intelligent question I've been asked this year. I don't wish to puff you up, but you've hit the nail on the head. So, I can only answer it by reading what Prabhupada says. Gotta find it though. Canto 3, chapter 16, text 20. But when you want to find it, you can't. So, 16. Can't find it. Whew. So someone want to answer that question? Rupanuga, want to answer the question? So there's a controversy, and the controversy, being honest, within the ISKCON mission, is some people support the idea that we were in Vrindavan or Vaikuntha, and that we fell down. The jiva fell down to this material world. And then there are other Vaishnavas, bona fide Vaishnavas, who say we were never in Vaikuntha or Vrindavan, and we came from the glance of Mahavishnu. So this controversy has been going on for a while. And then the one group, they'll quote from Prabhupada, and then the other group, to support their argument, then the other group will quote something totally opposite that Prabhupada said within context, which completely defeats what the other group said. Yes. I knew it was there. Oh, here. So Prabhupada said, now I'm taking the second group, right? The second group. Prabhupada says, the conclusion is, no one falls from the spiritual world or Vaikuntha, for it is an eternal abode. So now, eternal abode means Vaikuntha is eternal, but also it's your eternal abode. That means it's your eternal place where you live, so you can never live anywhere else. You can understand it two ways. So there is the second argument, and there's the first argument. So you should carefully read Prabhupada's books and decide. But Prabhupada has also written, now I'm throwing in another one now, chapter 13, Bhagavad Gita, text 20. Now just listen to this. Chapter 13. Well, I know it off by heart anyhow. It really doesn't matter where the living entity or the superior energy of the Lord comes from. Krishna knows why and how. It'd be nice if I could find. Anyhow. Oh, here we go. You ready? It really does not matter how the living entities or superior entities of the Lord have come in contact with material nature. So Prabhupada is saying it actually doesn't really matter. The Supreme Personality of Godhead knows how and why. So we shouldn't be, in one sense, too confused about this. It really doesn't matter. And then Prabhupada gives an example, and it's called Kakatal Nyaya, the philosophy of the crow and the fruit. So these two Gyanis were sitting under a tree, and it was a tall tree, Talavan, fruit tree, and it had fruit on the branches. And there was one big fruit on this branch, and a crow came and landed on the branch. And then at that moment, the fruit fell, and the crow flew off. So one sage said, obviously the fruit fell because the crow came. And then the other one said, no, you're completely wrong. No, the fruit fell, scaring the crow, and then he flew off. And they're arguing back and forth, back and forth. You understand? The fruit fell, and that scared the crow, so he flew off. Or the crow came, and that made the fruit fall. It's called Kakatao logic. So Prabhupada used that to answer this question. Did we come from Vrindavan or Vaikuntha? Or did we come from the glance of Mahavishnu? That's how Prabhupada chose to answer that in a very famous letter in 1972. But just looking at it from a logical point of view, you're in the spiritual world. So nothing material can infiltrate. The mode of ignorance or passion or mode of goodness cannot infiltrate into Vaikuntha or Vrindavan. So how would a desire to fall down come? Second point, if it's so blissful, and we've spoken about this, so nice, you're so happy, why would you want to leave, or why would that mood come? Then if you say, well, you become envious of Krishna, then what are you doing there in the first place? You have to be completely pure to be there. So even just using logic, it would seem that the second argument is more valid, that we never were there, and we came from the glance of Mahavishnu, and that's supported in Jaiva Dhamma by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. But ISKCON, we have to follow ISKCON policy, and it would seem that ISKCON policy at the moment is number one. It's the other one, although many senior Vaishnavas disagree. So I can best say it really doesn't matter. Don't get too worked up about it. And I can finish by giving another example. You're in your house in Phoenix or Durban, and there's a fire. And it starts to burn, and the building is collapsing. What do? run out. Now, do you ask your friend or your wife or husband, now how did the fire start? Let's examine how it started. Did you leave the gas stove on? Did you light one firework? Was there a candle burning? We have to understand how it started. No, you run out. So first become advanced and liberated, and then you may ponder this question that Prabhu asked. But it's a very relevant and intelligent question. And for most of the congregation, it doesn't, they don't think about it with the greatest of respect. But that's also all right, because the gopis are not big philosophers, but they have intense love for Krishna. I hope I haven't disturbed anyone. I hope I don't get arrested and put in jail for that answer. Anything else you'd like to, any other controversial, loaded question? Who's going to win the American presidential election? I don't know.
An old fool.
Huh?
An old fool is going to win.
And so?
Either way, we're winning.
Oh, yes. It's actually not going to make any, it's not going to make any difference. Honestly, we just want to spread Krishna consciousness. And this is material. And it comes and it goes. Like Gandhi's movement, liberation, and then there was this communism, and then socialism, and fanaticism, and thisism and thatism. It comes, it goes. But Krishna consciousness is eternal. It's more important. But living in this material world, we should learn how to navigate a little bit and sometimes be a little bit, aware of things. Like there's rules. Drive on this side of the road. When the red light is on, you can't. There are certain laws we have to follow. Anything else you'd like to ask? Good. Can we have a short kirtan? Thank you very much. We shall pray.